Hey everybody, Rob Retzel here, recovering attorney and leader of the solutions team at AA Premier Properties. Today I'm going to do my first real estate law topic, and that topic is the duty to disclose in residential real estate transactions. It's going to be a two-part video series. First part is going to talk about the seller's duty to disclose, and the second part is going to talk about what things a buyer can do, what actions they can take, what questions they can ask to avoid disclosure issues. So the first thing to note when talking about disclosure, especially from a seller's perspective, is that the seller doesn't have a voluntary duty to really disclose anything. It's really buyer beware. The only two things that a seller has to disclose are whether the property has a septic tank, a cesspool, or whatever other private waste disposal system, and the condition of that system, what is referred to as Title V. So a Title V inspection must have been completed of that waste disposal system within 2 years of the sale of the property. The other thing that a seller must voluntarily disclose is whether the presence of lead paint in the house, whether there is lead paint or not, and the seller's knowledge of that fact. Other than that, the seller really doesn't have to disclose much else voluntarily. And of course, voluntarily is the key word, because if a buyer asks the right questions, the seller will have to disclose really anything that the buyer is asking about. So for instance, if the seller knows of termite damage on the west side of the house and the buyer asks point blank, is there any termite damage in this house? And the seller, again, knows about it and then lies or gives a vague answer, they're going to be looking at a bunch of different legal claims, chief among which is fraud, breach of contract, and misrepresentation. So it's never a good idea to lie, as I think most people could probably have guessed anyway. Another issue that sellers can run into is that their brokers and agents actually have a much higher duty to disclose. In fact, the law reads, real estate professionals have a duty to voluntarily disclose any fact, the disclosure of which may influence the purchaser not to enter into the transaction. That's very broad. So if we go back to our previous example, and maybe in this case the seller has said to his agent or broker, man, there is some termite damage on the west side of this house. This thing is going to fall apart. I hope it stays together until this sale goes through. Guess what? That broker and agent now has a duty to disclose that fact to any potential buyer, because obviously that's going to be material to a buyer buying decision. So what should the seller do? Well, in my mind, and from an ethical standpoint, I think it's pretty obvious that it's always better to over-disclose rather than under-disclose. Other than being the right thing to do, the buyer's probably going to find out about it anyway. Most buyers have an inspection, and then guess what? The buyer's going to either drop out of the deal if they find out about these defects, or they're going to come back to the seller and they're going to ask for some money off. So there's a good reason to disclose everything anyway. So I hope this video has been helpful from a buyer's perspective on what has to be disclosed. If anyone out there is looking to buy or sell a house in Middlesex County, Massachusetts, around Winchester, please give me a call. I give free consultations. My number is 781-729-2425. I'm looking to come up with creative solutions to any type of real estate problem, work with retail buyers and sellers as well as investors, and I can come up with solutions that most realtors cannot. All right, Rob Retzel again. Have a great day.